some fascinating stuff here as we're preparing to see the hearings, the January 20th or the January 6th hearings. And there's a new poll out about what happened with the first hearings. You'll recall the first hearings were televised in prime time, an evening broadcast in prime time. And this is a Yahoo News YouGov poll that just came out this morning. And first of all, it shows that 55% of Democrats, 55% of Democrats and 53% of Republicans believe it is likely that America will, quote, cease to be a democracy in the future, end quote. That's pretty grim stuff. Half of America doesn't think we're going to be a democracy. Half of America thinks that we're going to follow the path that Viktor Orban trod, that Vladimir Putin trod, to create a what you could call a soft oligarchy. It's still soft in Hungary. It's brutally hard in Russia. But, you know, for example, in Hungary, all of the media is owned by oligarchs who are friends of Viktor Orban, the president. He ran for re-election this year. Was it this year or last year? Might have been late last fall, early this spring. In any case, in the last year, he ran for re-election, Viktor Orban, and he won overwhelmingly. What they don't tell you when they tell you that is that it's been 2 years since the guy he ran against had one single media appearance. There were no presidential debates. By the way, did I point out to you that Republicans have pulled out of the presidential debates for 2024? They've already announced it. No debates. We're not going to do it. There were no debates in Hungary, and the equivalent of the Democratic candidate, the opposition candidate, literally was not interviewed even once on television in the 2 years leading up to the election. This is, you know, and of course CPAC went over and did their conference from Hungary. This is their plan. And they're not, you know, just like as I pointed out in the first block here, just like the January 6th attack on Mike Pence and on the Capitol building was predicted 8 months in advance by yours truly. By the way, in that article back in March of 2020, I predicted that there was going to be violence in Washington, D.C. that day. But not only that, but now we have half of Democrats and Republicans saying, well, it's just going to be like Hungary. We're just going to be like Russia. Now, compounding this, why would half of Americans say this? Well, you and I, the political junkies out here, and we know who we are, right? Who follow politics closely, the high information voters, as it were. And when I say low information voters, I never mean that as a slur. I was a low information voter. I was telling Sean about this there were a few years there when Louise and I were running a community for abused kids, and I was traveling around the world opening, international relief, famine relief centers, and we took over a leper colony and a home for blind kids in India, and I was in Uganda during the Civil War there, when Idi Amin was being run out of the country. I was not paying attention to politics. I was busy. So there are a lot of people like that. Well, apparently, only 24% of Americans watched that primetime presentation. Now, I don't think the number could actually be that high. 24% of Americans say that they watched it, but the official numbers were 20 million, which is still a lot of people. I mean, that's more than watched the Super Bowl, but still, that's not 24% of Americans. 27% of Americans say they caught the news coverage later, but 49% of Americans have said they have not watched the hearings. They're not following the hearings. They're not paying attention to the hearings. They don't care about the news of the hearings. That's 49% of Americans, which might be why 52%, 53% of Americans think that there's going to be no more democracy. 55% of Democrats. Viewership of the hearings was lowest among Donald Trump voters. Only 9% of Trump voters watched the hearings. Only 13% of Republicans watched the hearings. Only 22% of Fox viewers said that they've been paying attention to the viewers. The highest viewership was among Biden voters, 47%, Democrats, 44%, and viewers of MSNBC, 52%. Nearly 3/4 of all the people who did watch, and again, this is a relatively small number of people, but nearly 3/4 to 72% specifically of the people who did watch the hearings say that they were Democrats. Only 37% of Americans right now believe that there was a conspiracy to steal the White House and that Donald Trump was at the center of it. Pretty amazing stuff. So Pete Aguilar is going to be apparently the lead, the guy like Zoe Lofgren was a couple days ago, on this pressure campaign to take out Pence.